Guys, welcome back to today's video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you things you need to look out for when looking to rent a property, especially when you're doing house viewing. So pretty much you can consider this video as your house viewing checklist. This video is a part of my relocation series, especially when I started to do the accommodation bit. I know a lot of people have asked me, oh TSC, I'm trying to go house viewing next week. You know, we just arrived in the UK. They're asking us to come and view houses. What do you think we should look out for? So that you don't go out there without any kind of information and then you miss out on the vital things is the reason why I have made this video. So without further ado, let's jump right in. When house viewing, it is very easy to forget to check whether essential heating, electrical and other appliances are working. Do not be shy. Make sure you check out the following items. The first one is light switches. Don't be afraid, don't be shy. Turn them off and on. Power sockets, turn them off and on. Check radiator, check the position. Are they in a good position? Check that they are working properly. Look at the boiler, ask questions. If you need to request for a new boiler, this might be the time for you to know. You can ask them to turn on the radiator. This particular house, when we came checking, I asked them to turn on the radiator for me because I know that I do not deal well with cold, and I wanted to be sure that the house was warm enough, and also I wanted to be sure that the radiator and the boiling system was working perfectly. You are free to ask them all of these questions. Make sure that you turn things on and off. Look at the kitchen, the appliances, are they working? Check the freezer. My house has integrated freezers and fridges and things like that. Check that those things are working perfectly and they are in perfect working condition. Kitchen appliances, if the property you have is the type that they provide all of those white goods, they provide all of those extras like dishwashers, washing machine and all of that, check to make sure that all of these things are working. Check their sockets. I remember that when I viewed this house, he had a dishwasher, but unfortunately I didn't check if it was coming on and off. When we moved in, we found out that the dishwasher wasn't working. I tried to, do everything I could do. I got someone to change the fuse. It still didn't work. And obviously, it wasn't working at the time I was doing the viewing, but I didn't know. So you want to check every single appliances that is in the house. Make sure you check that all of it is working perfectly. Now, while you are wandering around your potential new home, here are the things you need to look out for in each of the rooms. The first thing is you want to check the doors. Are they good? Are they, do they have locks? I find that this is one of my biggest shocks in the UK. Most of the doors in the houses in the UK do not have latch or lock. Check if those are available. Check that the hinges are, perfect. Secondly, you want to look at windows, right? Are they single glazed? Are they double glazed? The reason is this. When the weather is very cold, single glazed windows have tendencies of allowing drafts to come in from under the door. Like you sit down in some people's living room and it's very cold because their windows are single glazed. You want to check all of those things. Check decor. If there are any kind of decor provided in the property, especially if you're taking a house that is furnished or maybe an apartment, you want to check that the decor, they are in good condition, they are tasteful. At the end of the day, if you're paying for these things, it better be tasteful. So you want to check decor, you want to check the doors, check the window, check the tiles, check the floor. If you have wooden floor, check very well that the wooden floor is not creaky and is not damaged. So that if it's damaged, you can ask for a replacement before you move in. Also with the doors, another thing you want to check with the doors is that, especially the exit door, you want to check that the exit door is not gaping. What you find is that a lot of people, after they move into their house, during winter, they discover that their doors have very little creases, like little holes beside it, that allows a lot of breeze, wind to come in, such that if you close all the other doors, maybe like your living room, everywhere is warm, but once you come into your landing that comes in from the door, you find that place is very, very cold. If you turn on the heater, that thing costs you so much money. All of the heating is literally going out the door through the little hole. So you want to check. Close the main entrance door, check the little space beside it, make sure it is not gaping. If your kitchen opens into the garden, you want to check that the door that leads into the garden from your kitchen is also tightly sealed, so that when the weather is very cold, you are not in the kitchen and everywhere is extremely... I've had people who have that situation where we're in the kitchen and it's so cold, because your kitchen is a very big part of your life, it's a very big part of your home. You want to make sure that if your kitchen leads to the exit, the doors are properly sealed. Also, even if your kitchen is not leading to the exit, if your kitchen has a window that leads into the garden, you want to make sure that you check all of the edges of the window, that is properly sealed. If it is not, let them know that you would like them to maybe call someone to come and put some silicone glue or whatever it is they need to seal it properly. If you don't do that, you would have a challenge eventually. I had a challenge with my living room, even though knowing what I know now, when I came viewing this house, the living room, which is upstairs, the windows looked okay, but I didn't look like into that detail. When winter came, we started to struggle. I just noticed that the living room was always very cold. I'm like, why? The heating is on. Then I started looking. One day, rain started to fall and it was very windy. Because the window had a little bit of, hole somewhere, I started noticing water on the window ledge. And of course, I told the agent, they came and sorted it out. They used silicone glue to, kind of like seal up all of those places. But I'm like, for so long, before I started to pay that much attention, I had been spending so much money trying to heat up that living room, but it was never warm. So you need to learn from someone like me's mistake. So make sure you check windows, doors. You are checking for those kind of little holes, because the agents are not the ones who are going to live there. You are the one who are going to live there, especially if you're just coming from Africa. You're not yet used to the kind of cold that comes during winter. You want to make sure you protect yourself, especially when you have children. Also, when viewing each of the rooms, you want to pay attention to the walls. Are there any kind of cracks anywhere? Now, the reason why you want to look out for these cracks is because if you don't see them before you pay, by the time you move in and you still don't pay attention to them, when you want to hand over the keys back, your security deposit will be at risk. Secondly, you want to look at the ceiling. Is there any browning anywhere? Does anything look like there's a leakage? Does anything look like they've painted over anything brown? Now, what could they have painted over? It could be leakage from the bathroom into your room or into the living room. It could also be mold signs. Some of these agents are actually very, very unprofessional. They will know that that house is moldy. Instead of finding a permanent solution, they will just temporarily paint over it for when people are coming to do viewing, or do like a very small surface kind of renovation, and then you will go and view, everything looks fresh. You just find out that everywhere is moldy. And if you're wondering how to identify mold is usually black and white. Like in Nigerian terms or Yoruba terms, they will say everywhere, whether we go boo. The ceiling will just look funny. There'll be blackish stuff, and then mold has a horrible smell, especially if it's in like a room that has been closed up. If you can touch it, if it's not too high, you touch it, it will be wet, it will be smelly, and then everything will just be smelling damp. That's how you identify mold. But trust me, some of these agents, they still paint over this mold. And if you are viewing a house and you don't know about this, you will just think maybe it's because the paint is fresh, that's why it's smelling that way. So you want to check out for the mold. Another thing you want to look out for when you are checking the rooms is storage. Look at the cupboards. Okay, is there a cupboard? Is there an inbuilt cupboard in this room? How much space do you have left if there is no cupboard? Imagine if you buy a small size cupboard in that room, how is the room going to look? If you take a room that doesn't have a cupboard and you don't consider the fact that you might have to buy a cupboard to put in that room, by the time you put a cupboard, it will be difficult to put a bed in it. That's when you realize that this room is actually very small. There are some rooms that are box rooms. These people will rent it to you as a proper room. So be ready. Pay attention to those things. Those are the things that you want to harm yourself with, so that you can also maybe negotiate. Who knows? You can tell them, oh, that room is smaller than a normal room. Can I pay £50 less? Can I pay £100 less? But if you don't have this information, if you don't even know, they will just give you the space. By the time you move in, you realize that you have literally cheated yourself. So you want to pay attention to these basic things when you enter each of the rooms. The next thing you want to consider as part of your house viewing checklist is the garden. Now, by the garden, I mean the external part of the house, which is usually at the back. What do you need to consider? First of all, look at the size of it. How big is it? Because if it's too big, it's either you're going to be doing the maintenance by yourself, or you have to call somebody to do it. You have to also factor in how much it's going to cost you to bring somebody to get it done for you. Also, you want to check, is the garden shared? Especially with terrace houses, the gardens are usually shared by like two different houses, because the houses are very joined together. You want to check, are you sharing garden with somebody else? What are the boundaries? You need to ask the landlord. so that you don't put something in the garden and then neighbor that you're sharing with will just go and throw your stuff away. You want to check, is it shared? If it is shared, you also need to know what is the maintenance like. Is it that they've agreed with the other neighbor, the other person that they're sharing with, that you guys will pay for it on a monthly basis for somebody to come and lawn it, for somebody to come and cut the grass, somebody to come and dress it up and make it look nice. Those are the things you want to know. Because if you don't know this, imagine moving into the house and then the neighbor just comes to knock and say, oh, hi, oh, the garden is shared, oh, we pay for it to be looked after. Then you'll be wondering, oh, I didn't consider this. So you want to check, how big is it? Is it shared with somebody? If it is shared, what is the cost of maintaining it on a monthly basis? If it is not shared, you also want to look at it. Does it have more pavement? I would favor a garden that has more cemented pavement, because then there will be less cutting of the grass and all, especially when it is winter. It is not the most fancy work to do when the weather is very cold. So you want to consider all of that in the garden. Although, if you have a big garden and you have children, it's always an advantage. You can put trampoline or any of those things. Also, during summer, big gardens are usually very nice. But trust me, the maintenance is no joke. It is either you are ready to do the lawn mowing yourself or you are happy to pay for it. These are the things you want to consider. Do I want a big garden because of my children? Am I happy to deal with the work when the grass is full? Or would I rather a smaller garden? All of these things may seem very minute, but they are very big things you need to consider when you are deciding about the house. Because by the time you move into the house, that's when the reality of the responsibility sets in on you. So you want to pay attention to this detail about the garden of the house. The next thing you want to consider in the house as part of your house viewing checklist is the utilities and bills. By utilities, I mean gas, water, electric, council tax, or if there are any other levies around the area that you have to pay. With council tax, you cannot avoid it. Everybody has to pay except students. And with students, you have to go to your uni to get a letter from the uni to exempt you from paying council tax. Now, gas and electric is very important. With electricity, you want to check which provider is currently in the house. Ask the landlord or the agent, are you able to change them? Is there a smart meter, or is it prepaid? Is it postpaid? How does it work? Also, for them to check to make sure that the last tenant did not leave any bill on the account in the house. Those are some of the things you want to consider. So you check gas and electricity bill. Also, in the course of doing this, you want to check, is the cooker gas or electric? So that you have an idea of how much you are going to be expecting to spend on a monthly basis on gas and electric. If the cooker is gas, I find that it's always cheaper to have your cooker as gas than when you have it as electric. You can ask them, oh, is this all on electric? Is this all on gas? What was the last tenant paying for electricity in this property? Because the agent will know what the last tenant was paying. At least they have an idea. You also need to check to be sure that if it is a prepaid or if it's a postpaid meter, you need to make sure that the last tenant did not leave any bill in the property. I had one of my friends recently, not too long ago. The place that they took, they found out that the person who was living there before left some bill, and when it was time for them to switch over to another electricity provider, it was very difficult because there was kind of like a lane on the property that they cannot move or something like that. So you want to make sure that all of those things are not your case. Finally, extra considerations. I know that there are already a lot for you to consider when you are viewing a house for renting in the UK, but I think that these extra considerations are very, very important. The first thing I'm going to mention in terms of extra consideration, and I think is very important, is mobile phone network. While you are wandering around the house and checking every other thing, make sure you pay attention to your phone. Check that your network is full. Check that you have full signal strength in that house. You're going to be in that house for a very long time. You do not want to be frustrated by network not working. I've had people who considered moving out of their house because their phones were not working. It's very frustrating. Imagine being in a house, people can't reach you, and you're wondering what the problem is. It is actually because there's no network for that particular provider in that property. The second thing I'm going to talk about is burglary and fire alarms and things like that. Check that everything is working. Find out from the agent, is there any extra cost of running these things? Are they working perfectly? If anything happens, what do you need to do? You need to arm yourself with all of this information, because you can never tell when you need information and they will come in handy. So it's important to understand the alarm system in the property, if there is any, the CCTV system, if there is any. A lot of apartments have CCTV because they want you to see whoever is coming to look for you before you open your door. So you want to ask questions about those things, how they work. Do you have to pay any extra utilities charges or whatever it is to continue to have those services provided to you? You want to consider those. The next one is broadband and TV connections. Where I currently live, 3 network is so frustrating. I've had to switch broadband network twice in this property. And this is because I didn't know before I moved here. If I knew that they were not going to work with the broadband and TV services I was using before, I probably wouldn't have considered them. The reason is this: it was too much hassle switching. It was too much hassle. These are the little things that you need. TV is a part of your life. You've got children. Internet is a part of your life. You have children. So you want to ask those questions. You want to check all these things. Be sure you know. And at the end of the day, I know you're going to be the one to choose which one you're happy to struggle with. But these were things that I found really frustrating when I discovered that the one I initially had was not working in this property because of the area. And people who live around there were like, oh, that provider doesn't work here. Oh, that provider, their network is not so strong here. So those are the things you want to pay attention to. They might seem very small, but they're very important because they're a huge part of your life. Another thing which is underrated that you need to pay attention to when you are viewing a house for renting in the UK is the fireplace. Now, if you're wondering what is the fireplace is like this square thing that, you can put log of wood and, create burning wood, and it helps to keep the house warm. Some of it are electric and some of it are, manual. You can put wood and then you light it up and then you leave it and then it will keep your house really warm. You need to find out if it is working. Right, we had one in our former house that was electric, but we didn't know that it wasn't working. When winter came, we were struggling with it and trying to put it on, but it never worked. And I was very upset because I thought that, that was going to really help us with keeping the living room warm instead of turning on the heating in the whole house. So, that was like extra cost for us. So you want to check that the fireplace is working perfectly. The next thing you want to consider as an extra consideration is if there is a loft and access to that loft. By loft, I mean on the second floor or the last floor of your house, there will be one small hole, they call it manhole, that you can enter and then go into the roof. That roof is usually called loft. It's always very spacious. People use it for storage and all of that. You need to check if there is a loft in your house and ask them, is there access to it? Can you put stuff there? Because if you don't have it, I'm Nigerian, I have a lot of load. I'm a load person. So I'm constantly looking for ways to put more stuff. So you want to check if there is a loft. How do we get there? Is it something you can store items there so that it will form part of your decision making and say, okay, I have all these things. Anyway, there is a loft. We can always put these things in loft. So you want to check how big the loft is and the access to the loft. The last thing I want to talk about as an extra consideration when you are renting a house in the UK to look out for is the insulation in the house. It is very important because the insulation is part of the things that would help you reduce your cost of heating when winter comes. My house is very warm. Like the weather now is very cold. I hardly turn on the heating except when it is so cold and the boys are complaining. And this is because the insulation at the top of the house is really good. Also, because my house is in between 2 other houses. So I have cushion from here, I have cushion from here, and it really keeps the warmth. If you are renting a house, make sure you pay attention. If you're going to take the end of terrace, remember that when the wind or cold is coming, it's coming straight into the wall of your house and you will definitely feel it. If you are considering a house that is in the middle of 2 houses, it's a better catch for you because you have warmth coming from the 2 buildings on the 2 sides, and this really helps. This also contributes to how warm generally your house is going to be. So it is important that you pay attention to the insulation that is in the property you want to take. Especially if you're coming from Nigeria that is naturally a warm environment. Trust me, this particular point, you don't want to joke with it. And that is it for me from this video. If you're currently searching or viewing properties to rent in the UK, trust me, you want to write down each and every point in this video as your house viewing checklist to take with you whenever it is you're going viewing, because it is very easy to forget some of these things and they slip through the cracks. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, and leave me a comment below. Let me know which part of it really resonates with you. Let me know what mistakes you made also while you were looking for a house, and if there were any frustrations that you've had from renting a house in the UK, let me know in the comment section below. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by. Consider subscribing. Here I talk about everything about settling in the UK, especially with children. If you're a returning subscriber, hey, welcome back. If you have any suggestion about a video you want me to film, or if you have any question about relocation, settling with children, living in the UK, what to consider, I am more than happy to answer. My email address is going to be somewhere in the description box. Feel free to email me. Also, if you like this type of video, give it a thumbs up. It tells me that you like these videos and I can film more of content like this for your consumption. If you know anyone who is going to find this video useful, or any one of the videos in my relocation series here, make sure you share it with them. You'll be doing them a lot of good. I am at Gregory-jonah on all social media platforms. Please feel free, hit the follow button and let's connect. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Bye everyone.